sixth graders, if you could find this worksheet in your packet. So for cohort A, it's going to be at the very end on the Friday, April 2nd day. And then for cohort B, it is labeled for Thursday, April 1st, and it's the second or third to last pages in your packet. And you can see on the top, it should say percent of change. So find that sheet. And then you are going to kind of fill in some of the problems that I do in this video. So percent of change is how much something is increasing or decreasing by as a percent. So we're not just subtracting or adding or multiplying or dividing, we're finding how much of a percent has it increased or decreased. So on the side of your sheet, maybe turn it sideways or at the bottom, if you could write these steps down, and then we'll go through some examples so you can see what these steps mean. So if you need to pause the video, write these down and then unpause. So percent of change, you're going to take the difference, you're going to divide it by the original, then you're going to change it to a percent, and then you're going to write if it's an increase or decrease. So let's look at some. So as I do the problems, you follow along and do them right on your worksheet with me. So let's look at the first one, from 45 feet to 92 feet. So first of all, right away, I know that it is an increase because it's going from 45 to 92. I'm going to take the difference, which means that we subtract. So whichever number is larger, I'm going to take that and I'm going to subtract the smaller one. So if it's an increase, you're going to take the new number and subtract the original number. And so let's label it just on this one. This would be my original, which means that's what I'm starting with. Original means that you start with. And then the second one is the new number. So we're taking 92 minus 45, and then we're going to divide it by the original, which is 45. So for each step, I'm just going to write it out. So I'm going to put into my calculator 92 minus 45, which I can probably do in my head, but I have 47 over 45. This fraction bar, remember, means division. So in my calculator now, I'm going to do 47 divided by 45. And I get 1 and 400ths. I'm going to round it to the nearest hundredth. Then my last step, or my second step, says to change it to a percent. So even though it's 1.04, I still need to change it to a percent. So I move my decimal 2 to the right. Remember, that's how I make a percent. And I get 104%. And then I need to include if it's an increase or decrease, which we already figured out that it's an increase. So this is going to be a 104% increase, which makes sense because 45 times 2 is 90. So if I'm doubling it, that would be a 100% increase. And then to 92 is a little bit more. So it's increasing more than 100%. All right, let's look at another one. Let's look at the one right next to it, from 74 hours to 85 hours. So we can see that it's an increase again. So that means I'm going to do 85 minus 74, and then I'm going to have it over my original, which is 74. So I put in my calculator 85 minus 74. I get 11 over 74 still. So now in my calculator, I'm going to do 11 divided by 74, and I get 0.15. I'm going to round it to the nearest hundredth. 0.15 or 15 hundredths. So then remember, we need to take the decimal and move it to the right 2, and then that's how I get 15%, and then it's an increase. So it's a 15% increase, which means that I take whatever 15% of 74 is, which is 11, that it's increasing by that much. So it's not increasing by 11. Well, it is increasing by 11, but in this case, when we're talking about a percent of increase, it's increasing 15%. All right, now let's go down to number 5. So find that one. And now I can see that this is a decrease because we're going from 94 to 34. So a decrease. So we take the difference. So we take this time I'm going to take my original and I'm going to subtract my new. So 94 minus 34, and then it's going to be over 94. So 94 minus 34 I know is 60 divided by 94. And then I have, I'm going to put into my calculator 60 divided by 94. And I round it to the nearest hundredth, so I get 64 hundredths. And then remember we need to make that a percent, so we go to the right 2. So I get 64% decrease. So that means that we took 64% of 94 and we decreased it. So it is decreasing by 60, but the percent of decrease is a 64% decrease, and this is what we are looking for our answer. All right, we're going to do number 8. So number 8 we can see is an increase. So I'm going to take 96, subtract 24, and then it's going to be over 24 because that's what we started with. So I have 96 minus 24 is 72 over 24. 72 divided by 24 is 3. I still need to change this to a percent. So 3 is the same as 3.00. So then I move my decimal 2 to the right to get a percent. So my percent of increase would be 300%. So 300% increase would be what it would be to get from to 96. All right, I want you to flip to the back side of that page that you were just on. We're going to do a couple more, and then you're going to go back and I want you to finish the front side, and then you're going to finish the back side. Make sure you're showing your work for every single problem. So the difference over the original, finding the percent, and then don't forget to write if it's an increase or decrease. So percent of change we're still doing. So let's go to number 15. So $328 to $333. So I know it's an increase, and I know it's going to be a pretty small percent increase because it is only going up by just a little bit, and it's quite a bit of amount of money. So 333 minus 328, and then our original is 328. So we have 333 minus 328 is obviously 5 over 328 would be, rounded to the nearest hundredth, 2 hundredths. So then remember we change that to a percent and we get a 2% increase. So this is when, so let's say we have, I'm going to zoom out here and use my space next to here, and you don't have to write this down because it'll go into your other problem, but I just want to show you an example. So here we can see that we have a $5 increase, which we found out is a 2% increase. If I went from $1 to $6, that's also a $5 increase. So we would do 6 minus 1 over 1, which would be 5 over 1, which equals 5, which then would be 500%. But because this value is so small and it's less than $5 and we increased it by $5, that's why we get such a big percent increase compared to when we start with such a huge number and we only increase it by a little bit. So increasing it by $5 here is just a tiny bit compared to increasing by $5 here. So that's why our percent of increase is different, even though both of them are being increased by $5. All right, we're going to do one more, and then you will be on your own to finish both sides of the worksheet. So let's go down to number 20. So from 326 feet to 241 feet, I can see that this is a decrease. So we have 326 minus 241 over the original, which is 326. So we have 326 minus 241 equals 85 over 326. 85 divided by 326 is 26 hundredths. That would mean that it's 26% with a decrease, so 26% decrease. So all this work that I just did right here with my written out the equation with my difference, my new equation, my answer in decimal form, and then my answer as a percent with increase or decrease circled, because that's just way clearer for you to see and for us to see, would be the perfect way for you to complete all of these problems on this worksheet. So like I mentioned before, make sure you complete both sides and then make sure you have your packet the next time you are in class or on Zoom. Thanks for watching and have a great day.